Today I thought I would do something different and cover a prolific serial killer and just see how that goes. Our particular subject for this video is one of my favorite serial killers, H. Holmes. Well, maybe favorite was the wrong word. Listen, I know killing is wrong. The guy's really interesting. Although an infamous monster by society's standards, he was notorious for his love of money. At least in my eyes. Born Herman Webster Mudgett on May 16, 1861, in Gilmanton, New Hampshire, in a relatively normal household with no cat mutilations or abuse or neglectful parents. Things are looking good so far. Oh wait, never mind, I just remembered how the story ends. 1878, he married Clara Lovering, and not long after, their son Robert was born in 1880. This isn't essential to the story, but I'm just covering all the bases. He had a brief stint in the University of Vermont, but he didn't murder anyone there that I know of, so we're moving on. During his time at the University of Michigan, it was rumored that himself and a professor robbed graves for cadavers the school could use for research and study. Eventually, in 1886, Holmes would move to Chicago, and it was here he built his infamous Murder Castle, which was really just a 3-story building with a retail space on the ground floor and some apartments above. Other legends about the castle were verified false as well, such as the castle containing secret passages, trapdoors, and hidden rooms. This is only partially true, as there were reports of secret rooms he would use to hide furniture he would buy on credit and had no intentions of paying for. Cheap bastard. Unlike most other serial killers throughout history, his primary motivation was money. If he was alive today, he would most likely be throwing decomposing corpses at semi-trucks and attempting to collect payouts through insurance fraud. He would convince love interests and employees of his murder castle to sign life insurance policies, and although that's pretty sus to begin with, the payout would go to him in the case of their untimely death. Obviously, they found this agreement as completely ridiculous and absolutely disgusting. I'm kidding, they signed it. Although it's been speculated that Holmes's body count was in the hundreds, it's more than likely he only claimed 9 victims. Now, I know this is human lives we're weighing here, but I think Richard Kuklinski put up bigger numbers, and he lied about most of his too. And if we're discussing notorious murderers, you never want to be compared to Richard, lying sack of shit. Holmes would not only collect life insurance policies after his victim's demise, but it is purported that he would clean up skeletal remains either of long-dead cadavers or recent victims and sell them to medical schools for a small profit. Also only half true, as he would collect the bones from grave robbing, and it wouldn't make much sense that he could cash in on a life insurance policy and the insurance company wouldn't question what he did with the remains. Most of Holmes' legends is rather outlandish and understandable, as he was believed to be a brilliant mastermind with deviously evil intent. But you'll be disappointed to find out he had the same level of intelligence your lazy coworker that's collecting disability checks for a sprained wrist they acquired nearly a decade ago lifting 10-pound boxes. Honestly, Holmes's crimes were only a product of his environment, and it turns out that most people then were willfully ignorant, not unlike today's standards. He was a fraudulent scam artist who took little care for detail, but unfortunately everyone around him accepted things at face value. A primary example was of an insurance scam that involved Holmes and his accomplice Benjamin Peitzel, in which Peitzel would fake his own death by impersonating an inventor whom would be set to die and be disfigured in a lab explosion. Holmes was then to find a cadaver that would match similar descriptions of Peitzel to use for the body, and Peitzel's wife would collect a $10,000 insurance policy and split it with the other conspirators. Once realizing this wasn't Ocean's 11 and the plan was too convoluted, Holmes decided to just murder Peitzel and use his actual body as evidence. This worked, and upon informing his wife that her husband Benjamin split with the money, she just accepted this as fact. In an even more audacious move, Holmes would request that he take 3 of Peitzel's children, for God knows what reason, and she fucking accepted. Like, I know this was over 100 years ago, and I can never know the details of that conversation, but I've spent sleepless nights trying to come up with an argument infallible enough that a mother would give up her 3 children to a con artist and degenerate, and it's just not there. Holmes was only ever caught due to an agreement he made while in jail for unrelated events, in which he offered a payout of $500 to his cellmate in exchange for the name of a trustworthy lawyer, in which Holmes refused to pay his cellmate for. The cellmate then ratted Holmes to the authorities, and upon investigation discovered the remains of most of Holmes's victims. Holmes was eventually found and arrested in Boston on November 17, 1894. He was found guilty of 1 murder, and on May 7, 1896, Holmes was hanged at the Philadelphia County Prison. If you want to see more, let me know in the comments, and I even take requests if you want me to cover a serial killer of choice. Thank you so much for joining me, and remember to regularly update your router. Not me, your real one.